The coffee cup sat before me like a loaded gun. I should have realized something was wrong the moment Alexander handed it over with that rehearsed smile. The same smile he'd worn when he told me my promotion was just luck and that I shouldn't let success go to my head. The same smile he'd flashed 3 months ago when I woke up in the hospital after what doctors had called food poisoning. But it wasn't the smile that made me freeze. It was the smell. Sweet, laced with something sharp and chemical. Bitter. Almonds. I remembered cyanide from my chemistry classes 15 years earlier. My professor had explained how its odor was distinctive, detectable only by some. I had been one of the lucky ones born with that genetic ability. Lucky. What a cruel joke. Drink up. Honey, Alexander said, settling into his chair across from me. His mother, Eleanor, sat stiffly between us at the dining table, her thin lips pressed into their usual line of disapproval. She had been living with us for 6 months now, ever since her hip fracture and accident that had given her a convenient excuse to monitor my every move. "It's getting cold," Eleanor added, her voice sharp as glass. Alexander went too. "Such trouble to make it special for you." I lifted the cup to my lips, but didn't drink. Instead, I studied my husband's face over the rim. His eyes were too bright, fixed on my mouth. His knuckles blanched white against the edge of the table. "I need to use the bathroom," I said abruptly, pushing back my chair. Alexander's expression flickered with something I couldn't name. Panic. Disappointment? "Of course, dear," he replied, though his voice was strained. "On the bathroom." I splashed cold water on my face, staring at my reflection, pale, drawn, thinner than I remembered. For months I had blamed the constant nausea and weight loss on stress. Stress from the promotion, from Eleanor's watchful presence, from Alexander's growing coldness. Oh, but what if it wasn't stress at all? My mind reeled back. 3 months ago, I'd collapsed with stomach pains and violent vomiting, spending days in the hospital. No cause was found. It had happened right after I was offered senior partnership at the firm, the same position Alexander had been passed over for twice. 2 weeks before that episode, I discovered a receipt in his wallet, tucked away. A chemical supply company. When I'd asked, he laughed it off, claiming he wanted to start a photography hobby. Yet no camera equipment ever appeared in the house. And just last week, I'd caught Eleanor rifling through my laptop while I showered. She claimed she was checking email, though she had her own computer and never once needed mine. I returned to the dining room. Decision already made. Alexander and Eleanor were whispering, their heads close together. They fell silent when I entered. "Everything all right?" Alexander asked, his smile stretched too wide. "Perfect," I answered, taking my seat. This time, when I picked up the cup, I had a plan. "Eleanor, you look tired," I said smoothly, turning to her. "Would you like some coffee, Alexander? Made plenty." "Oh, I couldn't," she demurred, though her eyes betrayed longing. Eleanor loved coffee, but Alexander rarely brewed it for her. "I insist," I said, rising. "Let me get you a cup." In the kitchen, heart pounding, I grabbed another identical mug. From the same pot, I poured a fresh serving. This batch smelled normal, pure coffee. No almonds. No chemicals. Back at the table, I set the mug before Eleanor and in one practiced gesture, switched our cups under the guise of adjusting my napkin. "There. You go," I said lightly. "Enjoy." Her face brightened. "Thank you, dear. Alexander, you should make coffee for your mother more often." Alexander's stare locked on me, pure hatred twisting his features. "Anna," he said carefully, "why don't you drink your coffee? You said you were tired." "I am tired," I agreed, raising the safe cup to my lips. I inhaled. Only coffee. I drank deeply. Across from me, Eleanor sipped from the poisoned mug. Her eyes widened with delight. "This is delicious." "What's your secret, Alexander?" Alexander's face drained of color. "Mom, maybe you should what?" Eleanor cut him off. "Finally, get some appreciation from my son. About time." She finished half the cup in 3 swallows. 15 minutes later, her hand began to tremble. She set the mug down with a clatter. "I don't feel well," she murmured, her face flushed, her breathing rapid, hot, dizzy. Alexander leaped to his feet, panic stripping away his composure. "Mom, how much did you drink?" "Most of it," she gasped. "Why?" What's her words dissolved into convulsions. She collapsed backward, chair crashing beneath her. "No, Alexander," screamed, dropping to his knees. "You weren't supposed to drink that?" The words hung heavy in the air. A confession. I rose slowly, pulling out my phone. "I'm calling 911. Anna, wait." He grabbed my arm, bruising. "I understand perfectly," I said coldly, shaking him off. "You've been poisoning me for months. Small doses, just enough to make me sick, weak, unstable, so the firm would reconsider me, so you could take what I earned." Alexander's face crumpled. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. The coffee was just the last dose to send you back to the hospital. They would have thought you couldn't handle the stress, and the partnership would have been mine. But you got greedy," I finished. "You made it lethal." Eleanor writhed on the floor, foam at her lips. I dialed quickly. "My mother-in-law has been poisoned with cyanide. Send an ambulance." As I gave the address, Alexander broke down, sobbing, clutching Eleanor's head, begging her to hold on. "She helped you, didn't she?" I said quietly. "She was the one going through my things, making me look unstable. It's the one who said I needed to be handled." Through his tears, Alexander looked up at me. "She said you were getting too big for your britches, that you needed to be brought down a peg. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was never meant to drink the poison intended for me." "I know," I whispered as the paramedics rushed in. They moved with efficient precision, working over Eleanor's body. But I could already see in their faces that it was too late. The convulsions had stopped. Her breaths came shallow and ragged. "What did she take?" one paramedic asked. "Cyanide." I answered, "It was in the coffee." His eyes snapped toward me. "How do you know that?" "Because it was meant for me," I said. I switched the cups. While they tried to save her, my thoughts spiraled back over the past 6 months, how Eleanor had moved in right after my promotion, saying she needed help recovering from her fall. How she pried into my schedule, my eating habits, even my stress levels. How she'd suggested maybe I was pushing too hard, maybe I should step back from the partnership. And how Alexander had echoed her concerns so quickly, so easily. Agreeing that I seemed unstable and fragile, they had been working together. All along, the perfect pair. The doting son and the concerned mother-in-law, united in their mission to dismantle me. But they underestimated me. They forgot that I was a lawyer trained to notice patterns, to build cases from scraps of evidence. They forgot that after 15 years in the courtroom, I had learned to trust my instincts even when everyone else dismissed them. Eleanor died in the ambulance. Alexander was arrested at the scene. I showed the police the receipt I had photographed from his wallet, the emails I had recovered from his laptop, and the vial of potassium cyanide I found hidden. Among his darkroom supplies, the trial exploded across the news. They called it the coffee cup murder. Prosecutors painted Alexander as a man devoured by jealousy, so desperate to destroy his wife's career that he turned to poison. The defense tried to claim it was an accident, that he had planned to kill himself and Eleanor had taken the poison by mistake. But the evidence crushed that story. The months of small doses documented in my medical records. The way my illnesses coincided with professional wins. The text messages between Alexander and Eleanor dissecting my declining mental state. I testified for 3 days, presenting my case piece by piece. I showed how Alexander had tried to isolate me, make me question reality, convince me my suspicions were delusion. And how Eleanor had been his accomplice, gaslighting me until I doubted my own sanity. The jury convicted him of first-degree murder and attempted murder. Life without parole. But the real victory came 6 months later when I won the largest case of my career, a class action lawsuit against a pharmaceutical giant that had hidden the side effects of its drugs. That case established me as one of the top trial lawyers in the state. The same case Alexander had tried to sabotage by spying through Eleanor's searches of my laptop. When the verdict was read, the jury awarded my clients $200 million. The company's stock collapsed. 3 executives were arrested, standing on the courthouse steps, surrounded by cameras. I was asked how it felt to win so soon after personal tragedy. "It feels like justice," I said. "Not just for my clients, but for anyone who's ever been told they're imagining things, that they're too sensitive, that they can't trust their own instincts." I paused, scanning the faces in the crowd. My husband tried to poison me because he couldn't stand my success. He wanted me to doubt myself, to believe I was weak. But what he never understood is this: being targeted doesn't make you weak. Surviving makes you stronger. That night, I sat in my kitchen with the same mug I'd switched with Eleanor's. The coffee tasted of survival, of victory, of the future I'd almost lost. I thought about Alexander in his prison cell, probably convinced even now that he was a victim of circumstance, blind to the truth that his arrogance had destroyed him. I thought about Eleanor, who died believing she was helping her son, never realizing that their own ambition was the real poison. And I thought about myself, the woman who trusted her instincts, survived the storm, and waited patiently for justice. The coffee was perfect. No bitter almonds, no chemical sweetness. It's just coffee, dark, strong, and honest. It's just like me. 3 years later, I opened my own firm. The plaque on my door reads, "Anna Chen, Attorney at Law." Beneath it, in smaller letters, "Trust your instincts." On my desk sits the coffee cup from that day, a reminder that the deadliest threats often come from those who claim to love you, that sometimes the danger is born inside your own home. But mostly, it reminds me of this: I'm still here, still strong, still fighting. And I always will be.